Powered by the Montana Television Network. This is the 10 o'clock news on Q2, Montana's news leader.
Good evening, everyone. Thanks for joining us tonight. I'm Jeanelle Slade.
And I'm Russ Riesinger. 2 more people are now facing charges in the Bighorn County jailbreak.
A man and woman are accused of taking part in an elaborate scheme that led to the escape of 3 inmates from the jail in Hardin last Friday night.
Q2's David J. dug through court documents and has more tonight on what went into that escape. David?
Oh, Russ, Jeanelle, the Bighorn County Attorney's Office says inmates called from the prison last Friday night. Odessa Cartier allegedly received a call in Hardin from escapee Stephen Caplet, who told her it's going down tonight. Robert Burgess was in Billings, and escapee Andrew Parham asked if he can do it and pick him up. The 42-year-old Burgess provided the transportation, according to the court documents, to the 3 inmates. The 24-year-old Cartier called the sheriff's office allegedly with a false report of a shooting. Then the 4 inmates lured the remaining on-duty detention officer into a cell, assaulted him and took his keys, then forced the dispatcher to open a door. Stephen Caplet, Anthony Castro, and Andrew Parham escaped. Casey Leader then went back into the jail to let out the inmates, according to the court documents. Burgess faces a charge of obstructing justice. Charges were filed against Cartier for obstructing justice and making a false report to law enforcement. And Castro, Caplet, and Parham all face charges of escape and aggravated kidnapping. Escape carries a possible sentence of up to 20 years in prison, aggravated kidnapping up to 100 years. Jeanelle, Russ?
All right, thanks, David.
Traffic stop on Interstate 90 nets a huge amount of methamphetamine.
Possibly one of the largest meth seizures ever made in Montana. According to the Stillwater County News, a vehicle pulled over on I-90 in Stillwater County Tuesday was loaded with more than 70 pounds of methamphetamine.
Federal law enforcement told the paper the meth seizure made by a Montana Highway Patrol trooper could be the largest of its kind in the state. No details at this point about the person who was arrested, other than that they were not a local resident.
Torture, starvation, and extreme mental abuse all captured on video before the death of a 12-year-old boy in West Yellowstone. Well, tonight a grandmother, a grandfather, and a 14-year-old uncle stand accused of viciously abusing Alex Hurley until his death. A warning for you at home of potentially disturbing content. MTN's Cody Boyer was in the courtroom.
I'm devastated, I'm mortified, I'm disgusted to my core.
Charges of deliberate homicide by accountability. That's what 12-year-old James Hurley's grandparents, Patricia Batts and James Sasser Jr., now face alongside his 14-year-old uncle. Although she wants to remain anonymous, the news rocked one of Batts' close friends.
Before it was confirmed, to me personally, that it was them, that this was my friend that did this, couldn't help but go to what this was like for him and how scared he must have been.
Torture, a word used more than once by Gallatin County Associate Attorney Bjorn Boyer.
I believe the systematic torture and beatings that were perpetrated on the victim in this case that led to his death.
The preliminary report was blunt force trauma to the back of James' head.
Court documents reveal a horrific timeline. Detectives found Hurley to be covered with injuries, having lived with Batts and Sasser for about 2 years. After Hurley's father passed away in 2018, his mother tried to call, with documents showing Batts blocked her from reaching him. Batts' friend says there was a breaking point.
I knew something was wrong, and I encouraged her repeatedly to get him some help and to have him put somewhere. And she just really expressed that she just did not like him.
Investigators found places in the home where large amounts of blood were cleaned with vinegar. Then they found videos.
She's on a lot of the videos that show the torture to this young boy. She's in the videos seen strangling the boy.
I trusted this woman. I've known her since 2008. I'm just reeling. I'm devastated for this little boy.
Batts now is held on a $750,000 bond. Sasser Jr., $500,000, along with Hurley's uncle. Each could face up to life in prison, something my source says is an answer at a steep cost.
Everyone involved needs to go be put somewhere where they can't hurt anybody like this again.
In Gallatin County, Cody Boyer, MTN News.
Thanks, Cody. Now, the juvenile James Sasser III is being held in Billings and, as stated before, could face adult charges. In court, the prosecutor says he kicked James Hurley several times in the head.
Well, the Montana Public Service Commission, which regulates utilities, has been front and center lately in the debate over power generation in the state. But as MTN's Mike Dennison reports, the commission is now embroiled in a different sort of controversy involving the alleged theft and public distribution of one of the commissioner's office emails.
Last month, Public Service Commissioner Roger Koopman of Bozeman got a surprise. Someone had accessed his office email account, extracted 3 dozen emails, and then provided them to a news website in Kalispell. The site, Northwest Liberty News, had posted those emails for all to see, including 3 in which Koopman discussed personal affairs with his daughter and attorney.
It's quite a different matter when things are picked out of your emails without your knowledge by somebody internally at the PSC, simply to harm and embarrass a person. It's a malicious act.
After being contacted by MTN News this week, Northwest Liberty News owner Jim White removed the emails that contained Koopman's personal information, saying he hadn't realized their specific content. But the affair isn't over. The PSC and state IT personnel have been investigating who got into Koopman's email account without his permission. PSC Chief Counsel Justin Kraske says he'll report his findings to the 5-member PSC probably next week.
We're going to get to the bottom of the entire thing, and justice one way or another is going to be secured. And those that are responsible of this absolutely should be brought to justice.
Koopman also has hired a lawyer who said in a letter to the PSC that those responsible should be dealt with severely and that Koopman should be compensated for any damages. Commission Chairman Brad Johnson told MTN News he's been advised by counsel not to discuss the matter while the investigation continues. In many of the emails made public, Koopman is seen criticizing his fellow commissioners. He says that content is nothing he hasn't said publicly. The bigger issue, he says, is the breach of email security and that some information on state email is private and protected from public release.
We need to maintain a reputation of being able to keep information secure in our midst. And when this information is not secure, when it can be put out anytime, anywhere, it really compromises our ability to do our job and really hurts our reputation.
Koopman believes the public dissemination of his emails is a form of retaliation for his criticisms. But no one is saying yet who the guilty party may be. Reporting from Helena, Mike Dennison, MTN News.
All right, Chief Forecaster Bob McGuire joining us now. And Bob, the roads are kind of dicey in certain places out there today.
Well, yeah, we had that multiple car accident on the Laurel interchange, the West Laurel interchange, and now we understand Highway 212 between Laurel and Red Lodge. That's also been very icy, so drive carefully out there, folks. What happened? The snow has been drifting over the roadway. It melted, and then it's refreezing tonight. But let's talk about Red Lodge, too. Did you see how much snow they've had this year? So far, since February 1st, they've had 58.5 inches, almost 6 feet of snow up there. Now, how does that compare to the Billings area? Well, just this month, Billings has had 7.4 inches of snow. Let's go back one more month. January, they've had another 4 inches of snow in the Billings area. Let's go back even farther to the beginning of what we call meteorological winter. That's December 1st to the last day of February. And so that was 1.4. So Billings so far this winter has had 12.8 inches of snow, which is, as you see, not quite as much as Red Lodge. They've had about almost 5 times as much snow as they've had all winter. It took them just 2 weeks to get. We'll have your forecast in a few more minutes.
All right, thank you, Bob.
Well, Montana's Indian reservations have a complex legal relationship with the federal government when it comes to prosecuting criminals, and often victims of sexual assault never receive justice.
KTVQ's Mitch Legge was in Poplar today, attending the premiere of a documentary highlighting that issue, produced by our cohorts at Newsy. It's called A Broken Trust.
Sexual assault is a notoriously difficult crime to prosecute, and even more so here in Indian country. When the Newsy team first came to Montana back in 2018, the idea was to document how the man camps in the Bakken oil field influenced crime in the local area. What they found was a much bigger problem.
The system itself is very complicated, and that there are so many opportunities for a survivor to just slip through the cracks. Because there are so many different people that are trying to work together, so many different hands that a single case can pass through.
Angela, Marin, and Carrie are the people from Newsy who brought A Broken Trust together. They stopped by Rescast Radio to promote their documentary and shed more light on the high level of sexual assault happening on America's Indian reservations.
There's a lot of people who told us their stories who said that, you know, they haven't even told their husband.
Yeah.
And that this isn't something that's talked about, and it's time to start talking about it.
Right.
They, I guess, put themselves out there because they want to see something and change in their community.
Hoping to be part of the solution is the Redbird Women's Center, located in Wolf Point. It's a victims advocacy center that offers things like sexual assault resources and people who will sit with you while your rape kit gets done.
Sexual assault victims, you know, they beat themselves up thinking it's their fault. It's not their fault. They were the victim. They didn't do anything wrong. You know, and then sometimes our kids have, a lot of our people have low self-esteem, depression, you know, and so the big thing I push for is referrals to mental health, you know, to get the services for our children that are needed.
In Poplar, Mitch Laggy, MTN News.
And you can watch A Broken Trust here on Q2 this Saturday right after the 5:30 news.
You can also find that documentary online at newsy.com.
Tonight, still to come on your 10 o'clock news, a different kind of treat for your teeth. The longstanding Magic City tradition plans to welcome in the Tooth Fairy once again.
And in sports, state wrestling gets underway tomorrow, but tonight it's all about the action on the hardwood.
You're watching MTN News with Jeanelle Slade and Russ Riesinger, Storm Tracker weather with Bob McGuire, and sports with Scott Breen. This is the 10 o'clock news on Q2, Montana's news leader.